And thank you for joining us for the first edition of Journalist Hangout this week and, of course, this new year. I am Esther Omopariola. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Gani Kayode Balogun. Well, it's a brand new year, gentlemen. Babajide, welcome to the show. What's your thoughts?
Thank you so
into
much.
The 2021.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that I was privileged. I've been privileged to see this year. Not everyone was privileged to see the brand new year. So any one of us privileged to see 2021 should be grateful to God, because 2020 was the year in which we lost many prominent people, prominent academics, prominent business people, prominent politicians. Both resident in our country and outside of our country. I was reading about the chairman of the Nigerian community in Manchester, who also succumbed to COVID-19. So COVID-19 was was the ailment that defined the year, and it took with it a lot of big, prominent people, and we just hope that this year we are going to bring it under control so that we don't lose as many people as we lost last year.
Indeed. So you're hopeful for 2021. Gani, 2021, New Year resolutions on your part?
Well, the vaccine is here, and they've had about 4 or 5 now, already approved. So that gives me hope that 2021 will not be a twin brother or a junior brother to 2020. 2020 was bad in all ramifications. We lost a lot of very good people. It affected the economy of the world. Recovery is going to be very tough. And even now, you can see that some countries are going back to lockdown, with something that we are still running away from. But by and by, I think this year promises to be a better year.
Indeed. And that's it. So the Journalist Hangout starts now. Let's begin with the retrospection into last year and projection into 2021. Now, a lot of factors like insecurity, economic instability, fight against corruption, COVID-19 pandemic, and NSAS protests shaped the polity in 2021. Now, how Nigeria fared in the face of these issues divides opinion, and how the country will handle these matters and others in a new year will bring up various suggestions. But which of these is the most critical for the country? Babajide, right? Looking back at the polity in 2020. So what's your thoughts? How would you give us, what's your perspective or what's your overview of the year for 2021?
When you look at 2020, you can safely say that 2020 was the year of the bandits, the year of the NSAS protests, the year of COVID-19, the year of the President Muhammadu Buhari's train, because his train project really got on stream in the course of that year. And because of that, we can say that 2020 was the year of Buhari's train project. And we can only hope that we can do a lot more of the good things that we were able to do in the year 2020. Definitely, bad news always overshadow good news. I am particularly, I have so much pity for people who, because they are fantastic supporters of the government of the day, do not want to see people talk about bad news. Well, the truth is, bad news anywhere in the world will always overshadow good news, because people expect good news to happen. They see good news as normal. But if a fully grown man suddenly grabs a dog and begins to bite the dog, it is news. Someone was saying something some time ago on social media that it is the good news, it is the bad news that they are excited about. And right there, a journalist, somebody who used to be an editor, was also making a comment and say, oh, it is the bad news that they are interested in. It is not a Nigerian thing. If Goliath had defeated David, it would not have been news, because everyone expected Goliath,
to defeat
given his height, being such a monstrous giant, to defeat someone like David that looked like a midget to him. But the fact that David, as small as he was, defied the odds and defeated Goliath, that was what made it news and made it something that the whole world still talks about. So bad news will always overshadow good news. All that we can do is encourage our government to continue to do a lot of good things, no matter what you do. Today, people rarely talk about the jobs that Trump created before the elections. The moment COVID-19 began to kill people, it became the issue. No one was talking about the fact that before COVID-19, he actually set a record in terms of job creation in America. That's the way it is. There was this famous tabloid journalist who told his reporter, said, "Give me a murder a day, and you have made my day." Because that is what will sell the papers. The good news will not sell papers. People will not. If we make a habit, for example, on this program, of simply talking about all the good things that the government has done, and not highlighting how Boko Haram is still a threat, do you think people will watch? They will not watch. They will say, oh, they've been bought. They've been bought. That's what they will say. You know? But even the president realizes that there is a need to defeat Boko Haram and cause us to read a lot more of the good news. The day we fix security in our country, so many things will fall into place, and more good things will happen. And that's why I'm happy that the president in his New Year's speech admitted in his speech, I think point 27, that Boko Haram was yet to be defeated. So, for the propagandists, the president has made it clear, yes, we have not defeated Boko Haram. He knows that the challenge he has in 2021 is to live up to his promise of defeating Boko Haram. So instead of agonizing that, oh, it is bad news that they like, push the government harder to do a lot more of the good things and see how good things can compete side by side with bad news. Rather, wasting your time and saying, oh, they love bad news, you're just wasting your time, because bad news always overshadows good news. It's a normal fact of life.
Right.
And the underdog in any conflict, the underdog always gets the support of the majority in any conflict. That's why I gave the analogy of Goliath and David. If Goliath had defeated David, would it have been news? It would not have been news.
Absolutely. So, GKB, how would you describe the year 2020, taking a cue from what BK has analyzed so far?
Well, 2020 was the year of revelations. I'm not talking about religious revelations and prophecies. I'm talking about everything that we thought we know about ourselves as a species. We know ourselves as a social animal. All went out of the window, because the virus reconstructed the way we live our lives, forced us to look more inward, and as much as possible try to remove social life from our lives. That alone is enough to show that the human species is constructed in such a way to survive any tragedy. This is by far not the biggest tragedy that we faced. The Babylon plague of 1864 killed 25 million people. This one has not killed 1 million people. But yes, the impact is far more than in the past because of the level of advancements they have achieved. Don't forget, this is the first time that a vaccine will be ready under one calendar year. It has never been done before. That means the human race decided that they want to survive and that this virus will not kill them. I leave everybody. That's number one. Coming back up to Nigeria, people have written to me about the quality of the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road and then the Shagamu-Benin Express Road. Those are traveling. I may not be able to talk about the Shagamu-Benin, but I know that Ibadan, Lagos-Ibadan is about 90% completed. In fact, from Ibadan to Ugeri, is 25 minutes.
Excellent road.
25 minutes is a wide road, well constructed, that side. And then really out of Ugeri to wherever you meet the traffic. It's also very smooth. So that means on a good day, and if you can solve the problem of those trailers and tankers at Ugeri, you can conveniently leave your house somewhere around the Kosi, near the express, and get to Ibadan to meet in Apana. That is when I make a trip to Ibadan to watch football or to do something. Don't feel like you can get back to Lagos on that one. Just today again, somebody just sent something from Wari about the train from Wari to Itakpe, I think. And he told me that he took a taxi of just 1,000 naira to Lokoja, from where I can get a bus to Abuja. That is from that taxis have no need to be on the road a longer time than they have to. They have an alternative to move from Wari now straight to Itakpe and then take a taxi.
Even Abeokuta to Ibadan.
The Lagos Expressway.
Just 600 naira.
No, from Abeokuta. From Lagos is 2005. But I understand why it's the same route. That one is fantastic because even my wife decided that for Thursday when she travels, she's going by rail. Because money is not far from Mojo. Yes. And that's also a problem. Of course, we still need to open more train stations. But we understand the dynamics. And we're trying to test the track that they laid so that the speed will not do more than all success. That means that by the end of this year, all things being equal, they will have Agege, Papalan Toro, Agbado, and Omiadio. That means technically people can work in Lagos and live in Ibadan. Yes. Or live at Papalan Toro. Everyone can get to Lagos on time. These to me are factors that those who manage the communication for the president either are not capable of telling our people or
not telling us enough.
Or not decide to take it as that they have to bully you because you don't agree to them. I know a very senior ambassador to the president who had to take me up when I said, and was going around telling people that the president would not address us. That was his time. And then the very next day, the president came out and addressed us.
He shamed them.
And he said, I threw you under the bus. He said, I don't know. There are different strategies for different events. There is no one size fits all. It's not possible. Every event will throw up its own challenges, and you have to look for solutions along that line.
Indeed. So let's be hopeful for 2021, despite the
challenges. Like I said, once the vaccine is here,
yes,
the human spirit will take over.
Absolutely.
And by the middle of the year, people will be singing songs. About there was a time used to be.
So Biko,
Dino already composed a song. I remember it.
I remember.
So Biko, now what are the focus areas that you would recommend to the president?
Well, it's still the three cardinal policies of the president, except that now security is on top of that pyramid. It's still security, the economy, and the war against corruption. The president set out to fix Nigeria using these sectors as a means of achieving his aim of fixing the country. Now, if we thought corruption was the biggest problem in our country, security has suddenly overtaken corruption. There's no doubt about it. And it is clear that we need to be much more decisive and we need to be much more ruthless against bandits. For us, we won't stop talking about the fact that bandits are terrorizing our people, chasing people away from their homes, chasing farmers away from their farmlands, and in fact demanding that farmers pay them some money before they can access their farms. That is bad enough. Right into the new year, we've seen the bandits not showing any form of let-up. In Katsina, they still kidnap people. So it's not a matter, you are promoting what bandits are saying. It's a silly thing to say. It's an unthinking thing to say. Now, when we talk about the problem, we are promoting bandits, we are promoting terrorists. We are drawing the attention of the president to the need to solve that problem. And it gladdens my heart that the president talked about those problems in his speech. So you shut up because he has not sent you on an errand. The president recognizes that it is a problem. He too wants that problem solved. So we can only offer our support to him by mentioning where the problem still exists. We won't, for example, talk about banditry in Lagos because it's not a problem in Lagos, as you can see. We talk about it where it exists. It's not fiction. If it's a problem in Katsina, we will talk about it. So that the president realizes that he must solve that problem. The more we talk about it, the more the president himself realizes that it's a problem that he has to solve. And that's why any speech that he makes, whether on Democracy Day he chooses to make a speech, he will still talk about that problem because it has not been solved. If he does not talk about it, Nigerians will say, oh, he's an unfeeling president. He does not care about the welfare of the people. Which is not the case. He wants the problem solved. He has expressed the fact that he wants the problem solved. So security has now become the number one problem of our country. And as long as security remains a big problem, even if insecurity continues to challenge us as people, then even the economy will suffer. We are talking about food inflation in some parts of our country and contributing to the fact that we slipped into recession. Security is a factor in all of that. How can people feel free to farm? Because when we suffered the recession before the last, it was only agriculture that did not experience negative growth. So agriculture has a big role to play in our GDP and in our well-being, in our overall well-being. And we need to secure the farmers, secure our people, so that even foreign investors, we can bring them in. Why is Kogi today listed as benefiting the most from FDIs in the last few months? It's because there is security in Kogi State. We can call Yabelo all kinds of names. We can see him as a combustible and controversial character. But in terms of security, he has done a good job. I can testify to that because I traveled home and I can see what he put on ground. Even when I traveled, I was surprised. Even the policemen, they didn't ask me for money. They were just focused on their job. So Yabelo has done a good job on security. So foreign direct investment is coming into Kogi State. It's something to be happy about. It's good news. And we are not against good news. Then, of course, the war against corruption. War against corruption is a war that has to be won. Insecurity is a big distraction, but the president must stay focused. And I expect even the war against corruption to cascade to the states. It shouldn't be simply a federal government affair as it is currently. Let every state have some form of anti-corruption body, the way Kano State has done.
And Oyo State.
And Oyo State. Let every state have it. Let's fight corruption from top to bottom. So this is the way I see things. Those three areas. Cardinal programs. And in the year 2021, I'm sure they will still be the focus of the president, but there's a lot that needs to be done. Yes.
So BK has already mentioned security, economy, and corruption. That should be the main focus of the president in this new year. Anything you need to add to this, or you support it?
We've spoken about infrastructure, which of course is a continuous process. It's still a shame to me that there's no direct link between Lagos and Abuja. There's still problems with some of our grade A roads, and this we have to work on this year. Luckily, according to the Minister for Works, most of these roads are bound to be delivered this year or very early 2022. This, of course, is going to be the legacy of this administration, because I can tell you clearly that simply by missing that small window when it came into government to give legal backing to that corruption war. Corruption has grown. Whatever else we think we know about it 5 years ago. So putting it in the front border now requires not just theoretical messages. There must be clearly defined legal framework to fight corruption. We still don't have that. People can still go to court and faint. They can go to court or wheelchair, and they can waste our time as much as they can. The law allows that. We assume that by now there will be specialized courts for corruption cases with a time frame that can be adhered to, including all the way to Supreme Court. That if you are caught today and the evidence are presented, you have X number of months to make your case, X number of months in the Court of Appeal, and you must end maybe by the end of 1 year. That has given impetus to qualify to the president and everybody else that this government is serious about the corruption. Because right now, as I'm telling you, people are still fainting in courts. People are still having problems only when they get to the court premises. And it's turning our country into a joke because the law allowed them to go through this process. There has been no law by the National Assembly to guide us in such a way that such shenanigans must stop. And that to me is what we need to do this year. There are some countries who have decided that they're not going to make a show of anti-corruption war. They have many names, but the most popular one is what they call the Unexplained Wealth Act. It's in some countries. They don't take it to TV stations, they don't take it to newspapers. They will come to you with facts of what you stole, and then you negotiate things that are legal, that are not legal, and leave you alone. This one-way track of corruption has not worked. We've been trying since 2002 when the FCC was created, and that's a piece. Almost 20 years later, the same system, the same level of things we are not getting. We need to look for many other ways. We are dealing with bandits in with so many strategies. But we are still using the same thing to fight what is even more dangerous. What's more cancerous? The banditry, Boko Haram, and that's corruption.
Indeed. So, BKO, let's look at the ministers to watch this year. Who do you think are on your list?
Well, first and foremost, the Minister of Works, Babatunde Fashola. I think that Babatunde Fashola, if he can deliver the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway this year and go very far with the Abuja-Kano Expressway, many Nigerians will be very pleased with him. I know some of the constraints that the minister faces, especially funding. Funding because our lawmakers, rather than focus on existing projects and allow us or allow the minister to deliver on those existing projects, every lawmaker wants to come up with a fresh project from his constituency. And money that should be set aside to finish the existing projects, some of it gets diverted to new projects, leaving this one abandoned. I know that for big projects like the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the second Niger Bridge, government has found a way to source for funding, either through the infrastructure bank or even the sovereign wealth fund, especially for the second Niger Bridge. So much work has been done on the second Niger Bridge, and I want to believe that the minister will be able to deliver the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway this year. Where we have so much work left is the area handled by Julius Baja, which is, they describe that area as built-up areas. In fairness to them, you have more issues with built-up areas because traffic has to move and all that, unlike places that are not inhabited. You know, it's been, RCC has done a fantastic job handling the Ibadan end of the expressway, but even they have not finished their own portion because it still has to, except if it's not going to go beyond Grumaraji.
No, they've started work towards Iwo Road. Now they're already clearing the mid path from the Challenge bypass all the way to Iwo Road, and I think they'll take it to Ojo, then to Oyo, then to Gomoso, then to Yon.
No, but that's not.
I know. I'm just telling you where they will stop.
If it's Lagos-Ibadan Express, we can't go beyond the.
No, it's not going to. It's going to go to Iwo Road.
So there is one minister. I also expect that because of the year, the Minister of Finance, because this is the year in which we want to get out of recession. The minister knows that he has to work with the brilliant economists in our country to defeat the recession. Under this administration, we have two recessions. That's not good enough. So the minister will be in focus. And then, of course, Chris Ngige, the Minister of Labour, from the signs that we see, even outside of ASU, other labor unions will test the will of the minister, and the minister should be ready for a lot of negotiations this year. Already we are seeing signs that non-academic staff of universities are also asking, they are even actually threatening that the universities will not be open. That they, through that, from the 40 billion that the federal government agreed to pay ASU as end academic allowance, that they have to get some portion of that money. And they too are talking about promises made to them that have not been fulfilled. So, and given the fact that a lot of states are even yet to pay the minimum wage. So I believe that Ngige will also have a busy year, and it will be in the news a lot. Then, of course, the Prime Minister is from Taraba State. That's where we have the Mambila power project, Mambila hydropower project that has been abandoned for years. I expect that under this minister, Saleh Maman, the Mambila power project will kick off. That's the legacy that he can leave behind. If he fails, because I've spoken to the minister before, after my documentary on the Mambila project. If he fails to get that project started, he will not only have failed his people, because it's such a big project.
Massive.
The area is about 5 or 6 local governments or so, in that whole area, and it's bigger than the whole of Lagos.
Wow.
So he will have failed his own people and failed Nigerians, because a power project that can deliver even when there is no consistent rainfall, 3,500 megawatts of electricity. Currently, we are not doing up to 6,000 megawatts in our country. We are still, the highest that we have done is just a little over 5,000 megawatts. We've never done 6,000 megawatts. So if there is a project somewhere
that generates
that can give you 3,500 megawatts, we've got to find the money and do that project. And even that whole area will change. There will be new towns. A lot of positive things will happen if we can deliver that. And then, of course, the other sources of power generation, I expect the minister to tap into the other sources, so that we can even have clusters that people can generate electricity on their own, and then we'll be able to solve this problem of power supply. People say power supply has improved. The only way to know is to find out what is the generating capacity right now. It may have improved in your area, but across the country, it has not improved. That is a fact. That's a fact. And if there is marginal improvement, it is not the sort of improvement that can excite people.
Indeed.
Yes.
So let's take a short break. We'll have more discussions in Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. You're watching Journalist Hangout. Well, we have reverted to our 1-hour edition for weekdays and 2 hours on Sundays. So let's begin with our issue we discussed earlier on, which is a review of the 2020. And still talking about 2020, Babajide, you mentioned the economy, which is should be the focus of the government, and you mentioned some of the key areas. We talked about the recession. Now, what should the government do now to improve the economy and perhaps get our country out of recession, which you've mentioned that we've been in a recession twice under this administration? Yes. What do you think the government should do differently?
Government has to do its best to stimulate production. There's no better way of solving that problem. We've got to stimulate production. Government has to create the enabling environment for businesses to blossom. That is the best thing to do. The private sector will do the rest, but you must create the enabling environment. The focus on infrastructure is still the right way to go. Because I remember in 2008, the U.S. President Obama, the new president, said, we are going to spend ourselves out of recession. So it's good to focus on infrastructure. You are going to create many jobs. You can imagine if a lot more money was set aside for Obatunde Fashola, and he can do twice the number of roads that he's doing currently. You will turn Nigeria to some form of a construction site, and jobs will be created. Goods and services will be able to move freely from rural areas to urban centers. Because I've said before that I traveled to Benue State, and you find mango wasting, rotting on the tree, oranges just rotting. There is a need for us to, especially in areas where we know the food basket of our country, there's a lot of production of food and all that. We must work on securing those areas, keep those areas secure, provide the roads that will enable the end product to move to
markets.
Ready markets. There was a time during the Jonathan regime when they talked about coming up with aeropolis. Some countries have tried it, whereby you have cargo airports in even very rural communities, and what is produced is immediately evacuated, sent abroad. Look at a country like Ethiopia. They make so much money from flowers, selling flowers to countries of the West. And you know, it's not something that you can preserve. As the flowers are plucked, they're immediately lifted from those cargo airports located in those critical areas where you have those flowers. It's one of the countries of the world. Ethiopia is one of the countries of the world making money from flowers. So we need to come up with that. Tomatoes, for example, if we have aeropolis, if we have cargo airports in rural areas, we have a very extensive tomato belt in the north. If we can export tomato. Beyond that, we can also do what the Swiss are doing. The Swiss do not grow cocoa, but they have the best chocolate. So we need to set up companies, create an environment for companies that will come and process the cocoa that will produce on the spot. Turn it to chocolate, because it is from chocolate that you make the greater money. You can't make enough money from these cash crops. It is when you turn it to things like chocolate that you then make. Why, for example, should we be producing so much crude oil, and we don't have
petrol?
No, we don't have companies that can turn the crude oil to all kinds of things. You know, brake fluid, engine oil, and all kinds of lube oil. What's it called? Yes, lube oil. We need to have a lot of those companies, because you make more money from the byproduct. So there's a lot that the government can do. We have very brilliant economists. The president set up a committee the other day. How frequently do we talk to them? Do we really use them? If we are not using them, the president needs to use them a lot more. We have brilliant economists in our country. They're all over the world, see brilliant Nigerians. They are excellent. It's time to tap the brains of our white people. We shouldn't simply listen to propagandists and never do well. We need to tap the brains of our white people.
So, GKB, with what you said so far, let's look at the military now. Talking about the military, what are your expectations for 2021?
Well, the first thing, of course, is that, I'm sure we'll talk on it later, the planes are coming. Some of them have been for about 4 years, and they are going to deliver this year and next year. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing happening to our military right now. Because with these assets, we can strike harder and further towards the enemy, wherever they are. Of course, we still have challenges to our military in terms of mobilization, in terms of morale. But I'm sure that once we're able to get all this ammunition, all these guns that will require all these planes, then it will take the fight to another level. That, to me, is key for 2021. Nobody in his right mind will say that the military have done exceedingly well last year. They did their best. But you and I know, as far as 2020 was concerned, their best was not good enough. But this year, I'm so pumped because I realize that there will be no more excuses once these equipment come in to our armory, and then we can do maximum damage to Boko Haram, and that will be the greatest thing that can happen this year to our military.
Indeed. BQ, you had anything to add to this?
Yes, I think that this year we've got to give Boko Haram and bandits a bloody nose. This is the year that we must defeat these good-for-nothing people. It's not as if we enjoy talking about them, but we are worried about fellow Nigerians dying like fowls. This is the point that some people don't get. It's not as if no one is saying that no effort is being made, but we want to see these guys defeated. Yeah. Every time a Nigerian is kidnapped on the dangerous Maiduguri Damaturu Highway or Maiduguri Damboa Biu Road, or even Kaduna Abuja Highway, or Maiduguri Monguno Gajiram Highway. Definitely, there's a way it makes my blood boil, because these are human beings. They've done nothing. You can imagine Boko Haram going to kidnap innocent aid workers who are trying to make life more meaningful for IDPs. You go, you kidnap them, and when they kidnap such people, they hardly spare them. They usually kill them. No one should be happy about that. So we want the president to do his best, provide the weapons that the army needs. When the Air Force inducted the Mi-171E ground attack helicopter some days back, it was a thing of joy to me. And the Chief of Air Staff actually flew the helicopter, which is also a great thing of joy to see the boss fly that helicopter, show his people the way it's done. And it's going to help us a great deal, because weapons are game changers in any war. When America saw that it was finding it difficult to deal decisively with Saddam Hussein, they began to manufacture what they call smart bombs. You weren't hearing about smart bombs until in the course of the war. And the smart bombs made a big difference, because even the bunkers, the underground bunkers, some of them 25 foot deep, the smart bombs were able to penetrate deep down. So we need the game-changing weapons. Nigeria wanted the Chinook helicopters. The Americans refused to sell to us during the time of Barack Obama, citing the Leahy Law. But we now have the Mi-171E, which could do basically what the Chinook helicopters that we badly wanted could do. It's not as big as the Chinook helicopter, because the Chinook helicopters is more than 3 times as big as the Mi-171E.
It's also a personnel carrier.
But you can also use it for troop insertion, troop extraction. And you can also function as a kind of air ambulance, you know, because in terms of troop insertion, you don't have to land. They can use ropes to drop
ladders
to drop the troops. So why, you know, how treacherous the northeast terrain is, there are many places where the helicopter cannot land. For example, you can do troop insertion even on the mountain.
Right.
Yes, because it's not flat land. So it's not in all cases that you must find this flat surface before you can drop your troops. That's the value of troop insertion. And of course, it also has its cannons, it has its own rockets and all that, which will help us. By the time the Air Force also launches their new drones, because the drones are coming, people have been sent for training. By the time they come in, we are going to be able to deal decisively with Boko Haram. That's my wish. Don't forget, we are still waiting for the Tucano
fighter jets.
Fighter bombers. Then, of course, the army. I want to see game-changing weapons. I talk about the T-72 Russian tanks. because they helped us in 2015. Those T-72 Russian tanks were the tanks that Colonel Abu Ali, that great Kogi tank commander, was using. And we were able to take back all those big towns, beginning with Goza, Damboa. You know, Goza was the first town where Boko Haram declared the caliphate. And then they moved from there to Damboa. We reclaimed all of those towns, including Monguno, including Mafa. All of those towns we reclaimed before the election. The facts are there because of the effectiveness of not just the so-called mercenaries, but because of the game-changing T-72 Russian tank that had already been used to great effect in the Gulf War in the 1990s. We used it here and we had good results. So the president needs to help the army. They will not say this. They won't say that they don't have weapons, but it's our own duty to say it, whether people like it or not. We are saying that they need more weapons. And we need more helicopter gunships. If you put all of the countries where terrorists have been dealt with, Cambodia, Colombia, Sri Lanka, they use a lot of helicopter platforms. A lot. Because they are the best at providing close support for troops.
Evacuation.
Right.
So this is the thing. Weapons will help us a great deal. And I want to believe that this year we'll be able to bring in more weapons, both for the Army
and the Air Force.
And even the Navy. Thank God our Navy, they've gone back, they've repaired their headquarters in the Northeast, which
was destroyed.
Which Boko Haram destroyed. That's in Baga, destroyed in I think January 2019. When Boko Haram took over Baga. They've now, they've now repaired the office, and hopefully they will be able to contribute meaningfully to the eventual defeat of this group for Northern people.
So, but let's take a look at the economy once again, even though we have discussed that issue. But let's look at the Naira, the currency. DKB, let me come to you now. What do you think the government can do differently to strengthen the Naira and perhaps also boost our foreign reserve?
Two things really. One of them we've mentioned, and that's the fact that we have to be more productive. We have to stop importing things we do not need. That is the mainstream. And we have to start producing at a level where our currency will become competitive. Those two things, if we do activities, there's no way we will not continue to shop Naira with money from other sources, which to me is just postponing the evil. What we need to do now, like I said, is first, fine, we are working on infrastructure. That should serve as an impetus towards production. We need more companies, we need more micro companies. 2021, 2022 should be the year where we concentrate on, not on this big gigantic elements, but small things that can employ only 40 people here, 50 people here. That to me is the future. In fact, the entire American economy is built on the small business. And that's what we have to work on. The second, of course, is I still don't understand why. I'm not going to talk out of ignorance. Because I know that the land in Kogi, Taraba, all those flatlands in the savannah, we can use wind to generate electricity that can be localized. All over the world, flatlands are used for this purpose. They are even put in the middle of farms. So that way you know that they are generating electricity and also carrying water. Once we're able to achieve multiple sources of power and then be able to start producing, the Naira will show itself up normally. Unless, of course, we are using the Keynesian system of economics that says that the cheaper your currency, the more you're able to export. But that's an argument for another day.
Okay, PKO, let's look at politics, the elections. What's your expectation for the electoral reforms for this year?
I want the INEC to continue to work on making our electoral system better. It's not something that makes me happy, watching politicians rig elections. Now, some of them are not interested in rigging elections anymore. They just want to buy the people's conscience. They are weaponizing poverty.
It's called pre-rigging.
They are weaponizing poverty. They know that our people are poor, so they simply offer them money. That thing, that phrase that originated from all those days is now a national thing. Everywhere there is election, they offer people wrapper. They call you women. They give you wrappers. You see, there is a video from Edo State that I saw. Women lined up and they were giving them wrappers. They will add a little cash. They will give women money. We are going and cook soup. You know, the joy is usually short-lived. let our elections be able to produce the best. When we're able to produce the best, even the governance, the quality of governance will improve. Because the way it is now, people freely rig elections and they get to power. And what do? They behave like they are not responsible to you and I.
Accountable to anybody.
Yes. They behave like they're not responsible to you because they believe that they can always rig elections to win. So INEC must continue to perfect its processes to make election rigging impossible. And we can get there. How are other countries able to do elections that people can't rig? I always talk about India, the biggest democracy in the world. Nobody talks about rigging elections in India.
Right.
And it is electronic voting, 100% Indian technology. We can get there. It's not impossible to deliver elections that are free and fair and not products of bribery of the voter. That is what I want to see.
Thank you very much, BKO, for your analysis. And GKB, thank you very much for your thoughts on the program this evening. That's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the show. We are on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Esther Wapariola. Compliments of the season, and may God bless Nigeria.